to see you again. Only a simple majority is needed to pass President Trump's big, beautiful bill. But not all Republicans in the GOP-controlled Senate like the idea of adding trillions to the national debt. And they received a big supporter in Elon Musk, who posted the following: "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." Of course, the Senate hasn't voted on it yet. He's talking about the House. And Musk also posted Congress is making America bankrupt, to which Senator Rand Paul, budget hawk, replied, "Some of us are trying to stop that." Now, the bill includes keeping the 27 tax cuts permanent and other priorities such as energy, immigration, and defense, including funding the Golden Dome Missile Defense Shield. It also raises the debt ceiling. President Trump jumped into the fray, urging the Senate to pass the bill, posting, "So many false statements are being made about the one big, beautiful bill, but what nobody understands is that it's the single biggest spending cut in history, by far. But there will be no cuts to Social Security, Medicare, or Medicaid." On the trade front, the White House says President Trump will speak to the General Secretary of the Chinese Communist Party, Xi Jinping, soon. Trump posting, "I like President Xi of China, always have and always will, but he is very tough and extremely hard to make a deal with." And as first promised at a rally in Pennsylvania late last week, President Trump has signed an order raising tariffs on steel and aluminum by 50%. And automakers by 25% raise. And automakers are sounding the alarm that restrictions by China on exports of rare earth minerals could cause production delays in the future.
Just on my birthday on a whiskey haze, living through nights and forgetting my days. The cards are marked, the dice don't play fair. Oh Lord, my soul's caught in a snare. Oh Lord, beat the devil out of me. Set me free from the man I used to be. These chains are heavy and I can't break free. Oh Lord, beat the devil out of me.
What up, chat? Today we are in studio with the legendary John Rich here in Nashville. Today is Wednesday, June 4th, 2025. It has been a rowdy and wild one. We were at Kid Rock's bar opening last night. We're going to be chatting culture, politics, and everything MAGA, Trump, and fight, fight, fight with the great legend and cultural icon John Rich today, who's loaning us his incredible studio here in the largest house in Nashville. One of the greenest houses in Nashville, too. You got a whole garden upstairs.
I have grass on the roof.
Grass on the roof.
Al Gore would be proud of me.
Greener than AOC, John Rich.
Oh, big time.
Today, we're going to talk also about the little mommy and daddy are fighting problem we have with Elon Musk and Donald Trump. What's going on right now? Is Donald Trump throwing the big, beautiful bill? What's happening with Republicans in Congress? Can we ever trust the Republican Party again to not cuck out? I don't know. We're going to be here with a man who stiffens the spines of a lot of these limp-wristed Republicans and has done God's work here in the state of Tennessee. Tennessee's gotten a lot better.
It depends on which part you're talking
Yeah,
about.
that's right. All right.
Yeah, Nashville was just called a sanctuary city last week, so there's that.
Wow, we are broadcasting live from the sanctuary city. I hope there's an ice raid live on the show. I hope like Tom Homan marches in. Ladies and gentlemen, this show is brought to you by Advantage Gold. We got a couple of gold and platinum albums all over the walls here. Actually, there's like nothing. There's right there. There's a gold record. We'll see if we can't. Maybe we'll play the John Rich house tour live during the program. Advantage Gold is the gold company that I trust. The reason why I trust them is because, well, they've been solid in predicting where actual tangible assets are headed in a world of roller coasters. Donald Trump is out roasting Jerome Powell this morning, screaming at the Fed, talking about how annoying it is to have some type of strange non-government body over our currency. Should the Fed even exist? I'm not sure. But I'm telling you this, the value of gold will be there forever. And if you'd listened to me a couple of years ago, man, you'd be up like 3,000%. Okay? And so it's been rock steady, rock solid. Make sure you're going gold in the golden era. Text Benny to 85545. That's Benny to 85545. Or go to Advantage Gold. That's AdvantageGold.com. Ladies and gentlemen, John Rich. Okay, John, I got a question for you.
Okay.
There we go. Does Lizzo have any power anymore?
Does she have any power?
Kamala Harris trotted out every celebrity, every rapper, everyone on the Diddy list, every person that could be inside of caught on a Diddy cam.
Right.
Jennifer Lopez, Usher famously said, I'm not going to endorse anyone, and then suddenly his name was floated as on the Diddy tapes, and boom, Usher's at a Kamala rally the next day. Does the music industry, does the controlled music industry have any power? Kamala lost in a landslide. Was that the moment that the system broke?
So the question is, does she have any? Do people like that have power when it comes to the voters?
Yes.
Making a decision?
Yes.
Absolutely not. As a matter of fact, we're opposite of that in a lot of ways. Especially now that you find out they were paying them millions and millions of dollars. You remember when Beyonce came out, and I went, wow, they got Beyonce to walk out on stage, and then everybody left when Beyonce didn't sing because they only came to hear Beyonce sing, and then you find out they paid her all that money to do it. So the more that happens, just the more fake everybody knows that it is. But I mean, I think, especially when you were talking about Democrat voters or swing voters, who they needed, when they see Beyonce or Lizzo or people that are like the absolute pinnacle Mount Everest of wealth, fame, popularity, and perceived power, they go, what does that person have anything in common with me literally at all? Yeah. I mean, I have nothing in common with them other than I like their music. But it almost pisses them off when somebody that wealthy is telling them what to do. It's kind of like when Hillary Clinton does that. Here's what you need to do, and you need to do it now. Or Kamala was doing it and laughing through it. When Kamala's laughing like that and everybody's in pain, their mortgage rates have doubled, and the gasoline's through the roof, and the border's wide open, and fentanyl is rushing through their zip codes, and their kids are being indoctrinated at school, and you can't pick up a can of Bud Light without having it blast in your face, and on and on and on. They think to themselves, what on earth does this person on stage? Yeah, I like her music, but we have nothing in common. It's almost insulting, I think, is how that comes across. It's insulting to regular, everyday Americans that we should have to listen to that person. Yes. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because they flew in on a private jet. Lizzo took a photo on the private jet. She took this photo. She came out of whatever semi-retirement. She had some type of crash out. Right. And then the nobody's seen her for a year, and then she's photo on a private jet doing some type of paid engagement at a Kamala thing. You know the inside is paid. You know, how much is this well, I gave Oprah millions of dollars
I can tell you
to be my
the,
friend.
On the Republican side, zero pay. Yeah. Zero. I mean, if you see Lee Greenwood showing up at something, or you see Kid Rock, or you see me, or you see Gretchen Wilson coming to a rally or whatever, no, we come to those things because we want to see the country get fixed, and we thought Trump could fix it. So no, we're just honored to be asked to be there. There's never any well, I'll do it if you pay me a bunch of money. That's never been a conversation I've ever had.
The Colden, our excellent producer, who's here, who's an absolute
special forces
He's
Special
member.
Forces production.
Special Forces Colden.
Because he slapped this together fast.
He told me to stop slapping the table. Stop banging the table. All right, we're too excited.
Well,
we're too excited to be in this unbelievable. We're surrounded by guitars and guns.
Yep.
And Americana, but this is again an industry that you've been in for 3 decades plus.
Yep, since I was 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, is it something that will always be where we expect the left-wing candidate to run with a bunch of AstroTurf celebrities and musicians? Will that just always be the case? Because I guess my question here is, will that ever end? Right? Will people realize that that's totally inauthentic? We've sniffed it out. Beyonce doesn't actually endorse Kamala. All these people are getting paid. Or does the industry still have enough power in order to force all the celebrities and artists to go out and endorse the Democrats?
The industry still has enough power to go out and force them all to do it. So the music industry and radio, the radio industry, people never talk about the radio side of it, but you start talking about the big conglomerates, they're all liberals. I mean, there are people in the industry and in radio that are not liberals. So I don't want to say all, but I will say that the people calling the shots are generally going to be as liberal as any Hollywood actor you ever met in your life. And so the artist is really put in a very difficult situation. Let's say you have an artist that is a conservative, that's a Trump supporter, and they go, I don't want to do that. Matter of fact, not only do I not want to go endorse this left-wing politician, I would actually like to go and speak my mind, maybe in support of the guy on the other side. Well, man, when they start contemplating that, what they're really putting at risk is getting blackballed at radio. The record label gets upset. Maybe they lose their record deal. I mean, all kinds of things can happen in the industry. And why that's such a big deal is these artists, I am one, so I empathize with them. That's their American dream, man. I mean, they spent their whole life practicing and playing and grinding it out to get to the point where they could actually have a song being played on a radio station. That's their American dream. And they've got a payroll. They've got band, crew, bus drivers. They've got families depending on them to have another hit song. And so you're asking them to risk all of that to go out here and make a move out here in the world of politics or culture. You see what I'm saying? So it's hard for me to get upset at country artists that I know for a fact are conservative that won't come out swinging like I do because I know what's at risk for them.
So what's the difference in you and Kid Rock?
The difference in them and me and Bob is I think we've been around long enough that what are you going to do to us? I don't have a record deal. I don't have a publishing deal. I don't have a contract with anybody anywhere concerning my music. Literally nothing. And what's crazy, Benny, is if you would have told me 10 years ago, hey, John, in 10 years, you're not going to have a record deal. You're not going to have a publishing deal. You're not going to have a marketing company. You're not going to have any budgets behind you. If you'd have told me that 10 years ago, I would have went, what happens? I mean, so I'm over in 10 years. That's what I would have thought. It would have been like a nightmare scenario. But what I've actually found out is by not having a record deal, not having a publishing deal, not having anybody I have to answer to other than God and my wife. That's who I answer to. I have total and complete freedom. Yes, I don't have the machine behind me, but I also don't have to answer them anymore. So if I want to put out a song, if I want to make a statement, if I want to go out here and do something big in culture, nobody can tell me I can't. So that's actually freedom. And that's really what an artist wants. That's what every human wants. But a creative and artist type, we want to be able to say and do what we want to do, how we want to do it.
It hasn't hurt your careers at all. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but it seems like you, Kid Rock, like you're touring, you got #1 hits, you got bangers that are like going viral.
Yeah.
You got stuff that's doing millions and millions of views. You got DHS coming up in here and like doing streams with you. Now you're partnering.
Right.
It seems like a really great. We were at Kid Rock's bar opening. Like it was packed. There was Governor was there. It seems like there's a ton of great energy. This hasn't affected you at all.
No.
And I guess like people are gonna look and be like, wait, he's not dead. And
right.
You know, he said what he believed, and he's not dead.
No, it's actually bigger. It's bigger than what it was. The only thing I don't have now is the support of the industry that I don't like anyway.
Well, yeah.
And that's fine. I mean, if they think well of me, then I'm not doing it correctly. They should think ill of me. They should not like me. I don't like them either. I think that needs to be a clear thing. One thing I tell people, like I'm doing speaking engagements and stuff now quite a bit, and I'll tell these audiences, I'll say, listen, if somebody is not hating toward you on a daily basis, then you are insignificant. That means what you're saying or what you're doing is not having enough impact to force somebody to react in a negative way. Mm-hmm. You know, even in the Bible, it says, if you're, I'd rather you be hot or cold, but if you're lukewarm, I will spit you out of my mouth. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want anybody that's in the middle. He's like, be hot, be cold, but man, stand for something out here. And that's really the mantra I live by. All conservatives need to live that way. I think, and a lot of them are. You probably see the confidence starting to swell up with a lot of people who were being silent before.
Yes, you're seeing like NFL teams do dances in the White House and wear MAGA hats. It's like unbelievable.
Right. That's brand new. I mean, that's just a few months old.
You'd get canceled a couple months ago
100%.
for doing that.
Absolutely.
And it's changed entirely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you saw Taylor Swift come out and endorse Kamala Harris.
Yeah.
In what seemed like one of the saddest, most staged. Again, it's just totally inauthentic, and that's one thing that like you learn being on the internet day and night and streaming is like there's authentic audiences and then there's totally manufactured audiences, and people that are like propped up by bots and things that are fake. And like the Taylor Swift endorsement of Kamala Harris, there's multiple polls that shows that it lost Kamala Harris support. More people voted against Kamala Harris than voted for Kamala Harris, and then Taylor Swift lost hundreds of thousands of subscribers online.
Right.
And it's like, well, that's having an actual negative impact. Meanwhile, your support for Trump has a positive impact. Same with Kid Rock, right?
Yeah. Well, it's, us.
Dude, Kid Rock's doing dinners at the White House with Bill Maher.
Yeah. Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Bob has his angle and the things that he's doing that are important to him. I'm the same guy. I'm different than Bob. I mean, we have two, us both. We got really different ways that we come at things. But, for instance, me being a dad, I thought it was important to get Homeland Security right here in this room and do a 90-minute presentation to America about how to keep your kids safe on their phones and tablets, and that there were 36 million reports last year of cyber predators coming after kids. That's just how many were reported. So I look at what I do at music now. For me, I'm doing music for fun. I do music because that's what I love to do, but there are bigger fish to fry out there. So I'm trying to take advantage of the blessings I've been given to get the word out to millions of people about things that I think they should hear.
So
it's a bigger play than music is what I'm saying right now for me.
I mean, I guess the point, and I don't want to talk like the whole time, like I didn't come here to talk about Lizzo, right? Like, I'm not here to like dog necessarily.
I thought I heard Lizzo blasting out of your car when I was in my driveway. It sounded like it. I heard the flute. I don't know what that was.
Our car is not big enough to carry Lizzo. You got a truck though, big enough to carry Lizzo on this property. Man, you got one hell of a tanker outside. I guess the question I'm trying to make is it's like it's Pride Month right now, and you haven't, it's Pride Month, right? It's fake and it's like made up. But you didn't see any corporation change the logo. You're seeing this like neck snapping cultural change, right? Like I went to Target.
I saw that. I saw that whole piece.
Bro, like they'd have a MAGA section. They have a name only. Without the name, they have a MAGA section.
It's a patriotic section of the store.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
Like it looks like almost like a John Rich house level. This is the most patriotic house on earth. It's like a John Rich level, like patriotism, like flags and happy families and stuff, and fatherhood and motherhood. And I couldn't believe it. It's like culture is changing, and like the last archaic thing is like that all celebrities and all musicians have to go out and support Democrats. It'd be really nice to break that, and maybe it'd be nice to just have like. Whereas like celebrities maybe like stay out of it, almost like because who literally cares about your damn opinions? We know you're all like managed. We know you're all like controlled, and maybe just stay the hell out of it. Like, did Beyonce really think through her speech? Lizzo and Usher really like think through their endorsements. They really thoughtful. They're about as thoughtful as Joe Biden pardoning 8,000 people.
But I do think it is authentic that those artists you're naming did support Kamala Harris. I mean, there's no doubt about that. They weren't there under duress. But they probably did calculate, okay, a lot of my fans don't support Kamala Harris. So if I'm going to do this, even though I do support her, if I'm going to do this, I'm probably going to take a hit with my fans who don't support her. And they go, how much money would it take to get you on stage? They go, I don't know, $2 million. Thinking they probably would say, that's too rich for our blood. We can't do it. They went, fine, here you go. Whap, 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 whap. And that's how she spent over $1 billion in like 6 weeks, right?
She spent billions in 100 days. Yeah.
Right.
Billions.
That's actually hard to do.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So all right. So that system's breaking down. I think that people like saw. Do you think there was some Diddy blackmail going on?
Well,
here's my evidence. Here's my evidence. Now I don't know the industry. You're from the industry. You know these. You know people. But like I watched Usher go out on The View and be like, I'm not going to endorse anyone. I think you should just, vote who you like to vote for. And he said that, and everyone roared into applause, right? He's like, it's an important time. Make sure you vote, right? And then it'd actually be really refreshing to hear people just be like, I hope both teams have a good time, right? It'd
Right.
be almost like more, but like
Get out the vote kind
right?
of thing.
Like they'd be almost nicer to see that.
Mm-hmm.
But then like. Then like articles kept dropping about like him being in all these Diddy tapes, and then next thing you know, he's out on stage with Kamala Harris. Do you think there was any like kind of blackmail going on? Do you think there's ever blackmail with these celebrities, like in endorsements?
The only reason you would have your house rigged with cameras and then create situations like that is so you can have blackmail. That's it. It's the only reason Epstein did it. It's the only reason Sean Combs was doing it, and probably a lot of others we don't even know about. That they do that to get the blackmail on them. You know that. I think maybe one thing Bongino and Cash Patel are probably looking at right now are the people who were set up, invited to those situations, didn't understand what it was, and found themselves in a room where something horrible was happening. And that blackmail's been being used on them, and they're having to go through, what did he say the other day? Tens of thousands of pieces of content that the FBI is now looking at. And you know, a lot of the conservative crowd that voted Trump and loved Bongino and loved Cash, they're screaming bloody murder. Why don't we have it yet? Why don't we have it yet? But if you think about that volume of content out there, how long would it take you to go through that piece by piece by piece and delineate who was guilty of participating and who was just standing in the back of the room horrified by the situation? And you got to delineate through all of that stuff. So and I know that's not what you were talking about, but I think that's important to bring up because a lot of people, I'm sure you've seen it online, are very upset that Cash and Dan have not dropped a big bomb yet. What is your opinion on that? That is a massive, that's like a Mount Everest level of content. I would like to see them drop something.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
you know, but I don't know what they're dealing with at this point, what they're looking at. What do you think?
All right, so I got the pragmatic take here. Is that if the government has all this blackmail information on the most powerful people, how do you control Bill Gates, right? So the year is 1999. How do you control the most powerful, richest man in the world who runs the most powerful company in the world? Microsoft. I mean, you gotta like get him tied up with a very young Russian bridge player, which is exactly what they did. And he cheated on his wife with this Russian bridge player, and then it was at the Epstein extorting him. And he has it on camera, and he cheated in Epstein's mansion, right? And so it's like that's how you control a Bill Gates. Melinda Gates straight up it's told this entire story. The Wall Street Journal's reported it. It's all out there. And the government has that on Reid Hoffman. They have that on all of these very, very powerful individuals, except for Donald Trump, which is why they hate Trump so much, because they can't control him. But is the government ready to give up all that? Because once you put that information out there, your blackmail power is gone. And so pragmatically, like, does the government, like, what incentive is there? You have to balance the incentives between, like, the value of the information you have and the ability to control royal families, prime ministers, foreign intelligence agencies. And you have to balance that against, obviously, the fact that Epstein was working with foreign intelligence agencies. I mean, Dershowitz was on our stream live saying that he introduced Epstein to Mossad. That's what Dersh was on just like a week ago saying that. It's like just a little piece of information. So I think you have to balance that. I love you know Cash well. You know Dan well. These guys aren't scum. They're not deep state. They're not trying to hide things. But I worry that there are layers of this that go so deep. There's layers that go so deep that are so secret, and they've had control. They've had like unified control for decades now on this information. And I worry that like what they do is they take all the information, they put it in a black box that literally no one can get to, and that's called the deep state. I think that's what they have on Diddy. It's like, why is this Diddy case being thrown? You know, Maureen Comey is prosecuting this Diddy case. It's like James Comey's kid. She prosecuted Epstein, wrapped that up real nice. Prosecuted Ghislaine Maxwell. Nothing ever came of that. She's in a white-collar prison down the road from where we broadcast in Florida. And where's the information? You never see it because it's too valuable blackmail information, is what I'd say.
Okay.
So like, do you believe that you're the music industry celebrity? Have you ever seen anything like that? Have you ever seen any like Diddy? Did you ever get any suspicion that there was like a Diddy operation going on? And not accusing you of anything, but like these people, right? You know these executives. You know this industry. You've been as big of a celebrity as Diddy. You are as big of a celebrity as Diddy, right?
I don't think so. No, I don't think that. I think a lot more people know him than know me. But I think that, back when we were hotter than a match, selling millions and millions of records, you would be at the Grammys or whatever, and somebody might invite you to a party, and you go there and everything looks fine, and then you would see people kind of trailing off to somewhere. Where are they going? You know, I'm up here hanging out with, you know, this artist that I think is cool or whatever, and I just kind of stayed to myself and had a good time with it. No, I never really saw that, but you hear about it.
Yeah.
You've heard about it, and so you know if you're at one of them parties and something looks weird, time to probably go, just get out or whatever. But I know you didn't come to my house for me to argue with you, but I'm going to push back on you a little bit on when you're talking about this blackmail stuff. Okay, it's one thing to say that Bill Gates was running around on his wife with a Russian bridge player, and they don't want to give up whatever they've got on Bill Gates. But when you start bringing kids into the situation, and you've got adults that are abusing kids and sexually abusing kids, and sometimes even worse than that, and that is going on, your blackmail be damned, as far as I'm concerned.
Sure.
No, absolutely not. Those people, once they know they can protect the victim that's in that content and make sure their name doesn't come out and they are protected, that's a big one too, because there's thousands of kids that are involved in this content that exists out there, this blackmail content, thousands of pieces of content. You got to protect the victims of this stuff. And then you got to find out who was standing in the back of the room going, holy cow, where's the door? How do I get the hell out of here? Yeah. But once you figure that part out, Benny, you better drop an atomic bomb on these people. These people need to be cuffed, walked off to somewhere where we never see them again. Send them to El Salvador. Send them to Guantanamo. So give them, listen, Trump said early on when he was running for re-election, he said he thought that anyone who sexually abuses a child or traffics children should receive the death penalty. Do you remember him saying that?
Bro, I live in a state that does death penalty for pederasts.
So Trump said there should be a federal death penalty.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you've got people on camera that have been abusing kids and you go, there is Mr. So-and-so doing that to a kid, then at some point, you're damn right they've got to drop it. I don't care what blackmail they think that's worth of. Here's your blackmail. We're going to haul all you people off and nobody's ever going to see you again. Would anybody else like to try this in the future? I'm sorry, do we have any takers? Because this is the new rule. The new rule is if you hurt kids and we see it and we find out about it, you're never going to be seen again either. You understand? That's what I want to see happen. I just know it takes a minute to get to that point.
That's why I'm saying is pragmatic, because we've spent so many hours on this on the show, and the evidence is so demonstrable. You have these FBI photos of, and we play them often, these photos directly from the federal government of Epstein's safe, inside of Epstein's safe, they crack. Inside of those safes are boxes of hard drives with evidence tape on them. The FBI special agent in charge says, we didn't put the evidence tape on there. Epstein put the evidence tape on there. You have all these CDs marked nudes. You can see it in the federal government's photos. This is just the photos they released, right? Do you see bags of passports, bags of diamonds? We haven't seen any of that, John. We've seen zero of that evidence. They raid Little St. James. You can watch this unlicensed drone footage of them hauling off all these boxes, right? They have boxes and boxes and boxes.
I saw it.
We've never seen a single document from any of that. Where the hell is it? We keep asking. We ask senators. We ask members of Congress. We ask members of the administration. We ask Pam Bondi to her face. And it's like, no one knows, right? It's like, no one knows. And the best answer we've ever gotten is that like they've had a decade to cover this up. And that's what like, I'm trying to like establish that like Cash and Dan Bongino are not magicians, right?
Right.
They can't make crimes that happened before they got in charge go away. Or re-bring up. They've already been on saying that Comey hid stuff in private rooms, like that he was hiding material. You probably saw in the interviews. He was hiding material from them in private rooms and locked rooms. They were storing stuff away. They have to go digging for this stuff.
This is like the Americans trying to invade Okinawa and Kwajalein, when the Japanese have had years to dig their tunnel systems and get all the way into the ground.
That's exactly
and we're lobbing in bombs from our ships for 2 months trying to soften them up before we send in the ground team.
Yep.
I mean, I got to figure that's what it looks like to Dan and Cash when they're walking into the FBI
I'm
building.
not trying to blackmail, man. I'm a very optimistic guy. I know you're a very
Yeah.
optimistic guy. Your music is optimistic. It's uplifting.
And I know those two guys just like
That's
you
right.
do. And they're patriots and they are vicious. And they hate people that hurt kids. So
I want it to happen.
I want it to happen too.
And I don't want to blackpill.
Yeah.
There's just human limitations when you're fighting evil. And the question that James Comer had on when he was on the program that I thought was a very pragmatic question, a very realistic question, is he said, let's say that you had a box of smoldering evidence that would bring down the whole federal government, because we all know that Epstein was a Fed. We all know that Epstein was protected. We all know that Epstein was working with foreign intel, that he was working with our intel agencies, that he was protected by intel. And it would bring down the whole system, because then suddenly America would know that their federal government protects predators, right? That the federal government was permissive of a pederast ring, right? The world's largest pederast ring. And that we were perhaps funding it. No one ever knows who Epstein got his money. So you have that box of smoldering evidence, right? There it is, right there. Like, if you're the deep state, are you going to take the chance letting that box be found by Dan Bongino?
No.
You know, is like that's what Comer said. You know, that's
I mean-
what James Comer said, who's like the world's master at digging up, you know,
Right.
like old files and stuff from the Biden, stuff the government didn't want.
Yep.
And I was like, you know, it makes kind of a lot of sense. And he's like, listen, that box has been sitting there, whatever that box is, you know, they've had a decade to cover that up.
that's like leaving a ribeye steak in the garage floor and then letting Dan Bongino off his leash and he hadn't eaten in a week.
He does look like a
You think
bulldog.
he's gonna?
He literally looks like a
Is
bulldog.
he gonna eat
Yeah.
the steak?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
better
yeah.
get rid of the steak.
He has bulldog physiognomy.
Yeah.
the Dan Bongino bulldog, and he's getting more pronounced as he gets older.
You
He
can
looks
s-
more like a bulldog.
But have you noticed the visage on their faces since they've had these jobs? They look different.
Bro,
those
they've
two
aged.
men look
Yeah,
different.
that's right. That's a good point.
They look different. They look, you know, can you imagine having to comb through thousands of pieces of content with adults abusing kids and you have to look at that? I know from working with the agents at DHS, they have to look at that stuff and it causes PTS. I mean, it's not dissimilar from someone who's been in combat. Like it affects their mind to a really deep degree, and it is a mental sacrifice for anyone. I wouldn't want to comb through that ever. I wouldn't, but somebody has to, and that's the job they're taking on right now. I mean, you got to think about this kind of stuff.
So, last question on Diddy, but I want to bring up Suge Knight, who's also an executive. I don't know him, but maybe you've met him. I don't know. He's also
Thank God I've never met him. That's why I'm still here.
Okay, that's right. He's killed some people. He's in prison for killing. I
He's
think
in
he's in
prison.
prison for killing people or something like that.
That's a mean dude.
So
right
he's
there.
got nothing. You know, he's got nothing to lose, right? So he's already in jail, and he keeps going on and talking about how Diddy was a Fed and how he's working, how he was the Epstein of the music industry. And I wanted to get your take on that, given the fact that you've been at the Grammys, you've won these awards, you've been at these parties. Again, I'm obviously you're one of the most Christian, upstanding, greatest fathers ever, and you've like sacrificed so much for your family, your country, but you've seen this up close. Most people haven't seen this universe of celebrity up close, and you have. And I wanted to bring up what Suge said about Diddy.
Yeah.
And get your take on it. Do you think that Diddy was a Fed? Do you think that this was an intel operation? And do you think that's why the government's going really, really cutesy time on him?
Well, I mean, there aren't many things more powerful than music, the music industry. I mean, think about the hundreds of millions of people daily that are consuming content by these artists. So if you're wanting to control a narrative, try to control culture, try to drive the country in one way or the other, having music in your back pocket is a powerful thing to have. Just like Hollywood, right? How many movies have the CIA directed? I know that sounds like a crazy statement, but I mean,
definitely the new Snow White. Definitely the new live
for
action
a long
Snow White.
time,
Yeah.
government agencies have been involved in entertainment because they know that drives the thought process of Americans. So no, it wouldn't shock me at all if he was working for an agency. Wouldn't shock me at all. Can't prove it. Hope someday we can see the truth of that matter. Maybe it'll happen soon. He's in court right now.
Yeah, we had a number of guests come on being like, man, they are throwing this. The feds are covering it all up. It's a RICO case. So they haven't presented any RICO evidence. All they've done is present evidence that like he's a degenerate douchebag, right? Which we all know that, right? He's a real sicko. You know, he's a real sick freak. And that's it. But that's not what he's on trial for, actually. You know,
Right.
he's on
No,
trial
he's
for these
not.
big crimes. and they haven't presented any of that evidence. Witnesses have gone missing, and you know what they do have? All of his tapes, all of his hard drives, all of his cameras. They raided all of his mansions. They took everything.
Can I ask you a math question real quick?
Sure.
So, because you were able to rattle off how many subscribers you have and how big your business is getting, by the way. Congratulations. This guy's on fire right now, thanks to y'all. No, but I want to ask you a math. I'm proud of you. I want to ask you a math.
Sounded like a douchebag.
A math question.
Me? Jeez.
Here's a math question. Benny, in your opinion.
I love you all. I love you all. I was just saying, like, I'm just so proud of, like, the chat and the stream and the audience that we're building here is, we just did nothing but hearts out to the, can we do a heart to the chat?
Like Taylor Swift style. There you go.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go. From him to you and me. Okay, so here's the math question. Benny, what percentage of American politicians would still be in office if every one of them who was guilty of the things that are in this content were all of a sudden handcuffed and walked out of Washington, D.C.? What percentage of politicians would be left at that point, do you think? How big do you think it is?
Okay, I have one brush with the rapper industry. One brush with truly like rap, like the people who know the rap industry. All right, and I'll tell you about it. We went to Atlanta, and it's a piece of content. Maybe you've seen it, chat. I don't know, but we went to Atlanta, to the worst neighborhood in Atlanta, the deadliest neighborhood in Atlanta, and handed out MAGA hats. And we handed out these MAGA hats because we wanted to prove that Fannie Willis is completely full of shit. That like shit that like actually people love Trump. Black people love Trump.
Right.
That Fannie Willis's like constituents love Trump. Dude,
right.
We had 150 MAGA hats. They were gone in 15 minutes. 15 minutes.
No
People
good.
just loving it, running up to us, grabbing those hats. The point is that we had to hire security, right? We have nice cameras. We had security with us. It's not a place you go, you know. It's a place you go with big time security. So we got these real brawlers, these guys who do the security for all these rap parties in Atlanta. It's a real hotbed for rappers. Mm-hmm. Those guys said, I was asking them in the car about Diddy, and they said, "You want to know the real truth? The real truth is that we try and look the other way, but if they wanted to get what Diddy has, they just talk to the security guards because we all saw it, all of it. Mm-hmm. We've done Diddy parties." We've done these parties for these rappers. The baby oil stuff. This is how they got date rape drug into people.
Really?
So the baby oil is the way to get actually the.
So it had something in it that would knock them out.
That's right. Yep. This is how they're like. That's what the baby oil obsession was. Why aren't they testing the baby oil? That's the cover up right there. That they're like not telling you about that. And then they said that they saw politicians. I said, have you ever seen politicians? Politicians all the time. Lo and behold, some of Diddy's bodyguards have started to talk. Yeah. Not to the court. The feds have never called them.
Talk to Piers Morgan.
That's right. Yeah. Some of his guards have talked and have been like, no, man, you don't understand. Like there were A-listers, the A-list of the A-list, politicians on here, record executives, they're like, these people were involved.
You know what the Bible says about it? It says everything done in secret will eventually be brought to light.
Yeah.
That's what it says.
Better live your values.
Everything.
Yep.
So we can get upset and get wound up that we ain't seen it yet. And I'm aggravated, like, come on, let's go. Right. But he says everything done in secret will eventually be brought to light. Yes. So you got to lean on that.
Yeah. You'll be judged before Jesus one day. Right. So it's like, either way, you're going to get cooked,
right.
You better live an upstanding life, especially if you're in this business. Right. Because like, if you have, it's so brutal to see these people come out to see the fraudulence, frankly, in like some of these politicians. A great member of Congress, Tim Burchett. I know you know him.
I know Tim.
He's just a couple hours.
He's a hillbilly.
Proper hillbilly.
Carhartt jacket.
Yeah, dude. He got damn near kicked off his committees for just coming on the show one day, hopped up on, I don't know, Monster Energy drink, skateboards onto the stream, and is just like, all these politicians, Republicans and Democrats, they go to a party and then they wind up naked in a bed with a hook. And they wake up and they say, there's popcorn everywhere. There's all the pretty girls and they're naked.
How did I miss this?
Oh, man, it went thermonuclear. It went nuclear. And everyone, like the Republicans,
not
the Democrats.
Not naked. That's N-E-K-K-I.
You can help me with the pronunciation. Yes. You're a proper redneck too.
Now I wind up naked.
You can help me with the pronunciation. And he went viral for that. And he's like, that's how it works in D.C. It's like, that's how it works. It's just a big blackmail operation. And all these down home family, people, that's how they control them. And now you're watching you're watching what happens with like when Trump's trying to pass legislation, and some of these it's so weird how some of these Republicans just, Tom Tillis is a good example with like Ed Martin for DC District Attorney. He why would you block this? You see these behaviors that make no sense, and you just assume that these guys have messed up.
Yeah, because their constituents absolutely hate what it is they're doing, and they do it anyway. It's not good for re-election.
Yeah.
By the way, I don't call him Tom Tillis. I call him Thom Tillis. And I wrote a song about Thom Tillis that I'll show you later. Okay. Thom, you were wrong. I plan on going to North Carolina and playing that song at some rallies for whoever primaries.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't like him. I don't like Cornyn. I don't like Mitch. I don't like a bunch of them.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of them need to be primaried in 26. How in the world can Lindsey Graham still be a senator in a deep red South Carolina with the kind of nonsense he goes out here and does? How is that even possible? Yeah. South Carolina, what are you doing? Is there anybody in South Carolina that's like straight ahead patriot that'll run against Lindsey Graham? Please. I don't like Lindsey Graham, but he already knows that. I took Lindsey Graham apart verbally in a conversation across the table at dinner with President Trump sitting right here one time. And Trump still brings it up when I see him. He goes, I got to tell you, that dinner with Lindsey Graham, that was one of the greatest takedowns I've ever seen. Completely epic. I may have to book another dinner and make sure Lindsey's there. I got to see that again. And I said, well, Mr. President, if I had known you would have liked it so much, I would have said exactly what I was thinking to the senator. I was actually holding back with it. My God, I'd hate to see it go all the way. It's pretty funny. But no, I don't like Lindsey. I think that Republicans or conservatives, patriots out here are seeing them for who they are now. And they're like, find me somebody else to run. Like Cornyn. Cornyn's a red flag law guy, and a bunch of other stuff. And you got a primary challenger coming, the AG. The AG's stepping in against Cornyn. Yeah, and Paxton is polling 15 points ahead of him right now.
Wait a second. So what did you say to Lindsey Graham? Can you retell this story? What are we allowed to hear?
No, you're allowed to hear it. I mean, President Trump asked me at a dinner, this was several years ago, why are people booing me at my rallies when I bring up the vaccine? Well, that's a hell of a question to get asked by the President of the United States. Now, he wasn't president at that point. This was right after the election. And I said, well, I'm going to tell you, and you're not going to like the answer. But you're asking me, so I'm going to tell you. And I thought this is probably the last time he'll ever invite me to anything. And I told him, because a lot of people in your audience, including this guy right here, have friends and family members that have experienced horrible, horrible side effects from this stuff. Like they can't work anymore. They can't perform anymore. Their hearts are messed up. Their kidneys are messed up. Their brains are messed up. Some of them have died. Like they got family that have died. And I said, and then Lindsey Graham interrupts me from the other side of the table, sloshing around his Chardonnay, about his third one, in a big old wine glass about this big, bigger than his head, and his head's pretty big. And he's sloshing it, and he interjects, and he points at me across the table and says, Mr. President, if you listen to conspiracy theorists like John Rich, the Democrats are going to take what you did, and they're going to claim it as their own success. And so he interrupts me, and so I look over at Lindsey Graham, and I pointed at him, I said, do not interrupt me when I'm speaking. Do you understand me? Just like that, like you look at one of your kids. And Trump kind of leans back and he goes, well, I didn't mean to disrespect you. I said, yeah, but you did. And then I looked back at the president and I said, I'm going to continue now. That's okay. Is that all right? I'm going to finish what I was saying. And I finished telling the president why people were booing him at the rallies over the vaccine. And so, listen, he was put in a position where he was forced to trust people that we do not trust. He was in a horrible situation. He's got all these professionals and experts going, we can fix it, we can fix it. He's going, then by all means, please fix it as fast as you can. Our country is dying right now with these lockdowns, with what's going on. And so he said, fix it. They said, here's the fix. He goes, great, go. He's not a doctor. So he pushes it out there. He never mandated it, though. And that's the big difference. You know, people go, well, Trump approved the vaccine. I go, Trump made sure that it was available to you. He did not mandate it on anybody. That was Joe Biden. Joe Biden mandated it. You remember
Yeah.
Joe Biden on TV saying, if you don't get the vaccine, we're sending in OSHA to come in. Remember that? And we're going to
Totally.
shut down your business. We're going to lock up your houses. And we might even arrest you and drag you out of here. And Canada was actually doing that. And they were talking about doing that to us. That was Biden. That was the violation of the Nuremberg Code. Section 1, you cannot coerce, force, or put someone under duress to take an emergency medical procedure. It is against the Nuremberg Code. And so a lot of people have asked, you see it online all the time, when are these people going to be held to account? When are they going to be put into a courtroom? Well, Benny, if you come with something that is poisonous and experimental to human beings, and then you force them to take it, and under duress, under coercion, you're going to lose your job if you don't take it. You're not going to be able to travel to your business if you don't take it, on and on. The only courts that handle that are not civilian courts in the United States of America, because it's called crimes against humanity. That is how I view that. That when you force American people, you mandate them to take something that is experimental and it's medical, and they go, I don't want to take that, and then you force them to, or bully them into do it, or coerce them into doing it, don't tell them the truth, that's a violation of the Nuremberg Code. So what court does that happen in? The Hague? Yeah, it would happen in a place like The Hague, or maybe some other courts internationally, because this wasn't just America, it was the whole planet that was put under this. I know that's not what we were here to talk about. You asked about Lindsey Graham, but I think this is on people's minds right now.
That's right.
All this stuff. And so the level of aggravation in America in the Patriot crowd, the Trump supporters, is going up, because they know we got them dead to rights, and nobody's cuffed them yet. Right? And so what you're saying, you keep using the word pragmatic, and I agree. You're looking at it going, maybe there are levers being pulled in there still from the deep state that are keeping this from happening, and there's people on the hook that we don't even know about, possibly. Maybe.
Maybe.
But all I know is we know what's up. We the people know what's up. And that's a far sight better than it was 5 years ago, because I didn't know what was up 5 years ago. Did you? I got a completely different look at this right now, like everybody probably watching, than I did 5 years ago.
Yeah.
COVID was the greatest alarm clock that could have ever happened for us.
Yes. Yes. I mean, talk about somebody who likes a mandate, Lindsey Graham. You know what I mean?
He loves a good mandate.
He does.
He loves a good war.
You know?
Interesting how he went over to Ukraine, and within 48 hours they're bombing a bunch of Russian planes. That's
Isn't that
interesting.
amazing?
Yeah, I'm sure it had nothing to do with each other.
Man, that is wild. What the hell is wrong with
Somebody's
South
got a
Carolina?
primary.
That's
Please,
right.
South Carolina, please bring somebody legit to primary Lindsey Graham. I will be there as long as they're legit. Make sure they're the real deal. Please let me know, because I think a lot of us would go there to try to put a new guy in that seat.
It's interesting that you bring up the COVID vaccine and COVID itself, because it's something that Bongino said that he's going to be focusing on at the FBI. And I think there's like the entire edifice of what we see as our federal government is propped up by just a couple of very flimsy legs, very rickety right now. You have the January 6th lie, that the moment you expose key pieces of evidence that the feds were either planning it, in on it, had their agents there planting pipe bombs. I mean, all that stuff exists. It's clearly true, and they've been trying to cover it up. But that will collapse in real time. I think there's still a lot of Americans, even that there's a lot of So I want to take out the 20% of people that are just ravenous, like still watching MSNBC. All right, I would take those people out.
The Keith Olbermann
Yes.
crowd.
So you take out those people, they're just too far gone. Right? Too far gone. They're addicted to too many drugs. They don't even live in the real world. There's a lot of Americans that I think are still a little bit sleepwalking. And COVID, like a way to wake them up, would be explaining what the feds did on January 6th. Would be explaining that we paid for the COVID virus. We created it. Like that federal dollars through Dr. Fauci to usurp American laws created this gain-of-function virus.
Right.
And that they did it in China so that they could release it whenever they wanted to. And that they released it during the war games, the international war games, so that everyone would get it. And the first people that got COVID in America were returning to Seattle. What was the first hotspot? Seattle.
Yep.
That they went to build this virus with our communist enemies, and that they're the same people as our communist enemies, that they've taken control, right? And this is they've staged biological warfare on all of us. I think you can knock those things down. I
mean,
the cocaine at the White House, he's listed these things, right? Bongino's listed these things. He's very smart. I know you know Dan, very close, personal, and you have a great personal relationship with him. I feel like not a lot of people are like, that's not a good use of your time. You got to do this or that, this, that. Like knocking those legs out from underneath the deep state, those lies, those prima facie, demonstrable amounts of evidence that have piled up lies. I think that would wake up so many. I think 80%, close to 80 to 70% of the country would wake up to the nature of the feds and the nature of this deep state. If you were to kick out those lies,
start
right?
there.
Yeah. So what you're talking about with COVID.
No,
yeah,
I have thought. I think there's probably timing to all that. There's so many egregious, massive things that need to be addressed. It's like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. I mean, it's an elephant, but eventually you're going to eat the whole thing. I think that's kind of what they're looking at. Yeah.
Let's hear him.
I mean, we're fists up around here. I'm proud of I'm proud of Americans, whether they're Republicans, Democrats, or otherwise, that are stepping out there going and they're not believing everything they hear like they used to.
I want to do a shout out here to Jamie Mitchell, who's in charge of a group called Gays Against Groomers. And we were talking about it on the, Jamie's a member of our team, and she's an incredible graphic designer, and she does this advocacy. And given the fact that we've talked about this before, but it was years ago. This is like before like Matt Walsh was talking about this kind of stuff. And you have been such a pioneer on this because you're a father and because you saw it, and you saw it very early on. And you've been working so hard. And it seems like actually right now we are at this sort of like apex turn of the tide moment, right? Against predations against our children. And that's what it is. It was aggressive sexualization of children in Target in the children's section.
Right.
I think a lot of parents like had to be woken up to that. Everything from Bud Light to Target. But now there's this wild turn of the tide. You were early on it. How did you see it so clearly 4, 5 years ago? How early? I mean, you saw this very clear.
21. I
Yeah.
remember 2021.
Okay, so 5 years ago, yeah.
So we started to find pornographic books in schools in Tennessee. And I said, that can't be true. I mean, it can't be right. Sure enough, it was. I got my hands on a couple of them. A couple of Moms for America. You had people like that going in and going, I just checked this out of the kids' library. And then you started seeing the parents at the, at the meetings with the school board, and they would start reading from the books, and then they would shut their mic off because it was so horrible what they were reading. They didn't want to hear it. And they would say, oh, so you're an adult and you can't hear it, but you're going to let my kid read it or let the teacher read it to my kid. Okay. All that's going on. And I thought I was looking around Tennessee going, I mean, it's a deep red state. It's like Bible Belt. I said, who in Tennessee is going to stand up and knock the block off of this situation? This cannot go on in Tennessee. Shouldn't be anywhere, but I live here, so it can't go on here. And so I went, had a meeting.
Was this your children's school?
No,
Was
it
like
was
your-
not
your
at my
kid's school?
not at my kid's school.
Okay.
No, but it was in a lot of schools. And so I went to the Governor Lee's office. I had a meeting with him and the head of education in Tennessee, and I started showing them the pages that were printouts from those books. And I asked the governor of Tennessee. I said, his eyes were like, "What?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "You have grandkids, right?" He said, "Yes, sir." I said, "So if your grandkid came over to my house, came over to Mr. John's house for the afternoon, and I started reading this to him or her, and then they went back to you and you said, 'Hey, did you have a good time at Mr. John's house?' And they go, 'Yeah, he told us all about how to have sex with each other and blah, 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 blah,' whatever's in that book." I said, "What would you do to me?" He goes, "I'd have you arrested."
That's right.
And I said, "For what?" He said, "Child endangerment, child predator laws." He starts going down through it, and he's fired up over this. I said, "This has to end. These are in your schools right now, Mr. Governor Lee." And so that brought about a bill called 1944 was the number of it, HB 1944, where I gave a speech in front of the Tennessee House Legislature, a big committee. And I went through it and I said, what's going on in the school right now not only violates a regular human conscience that you don't show this stuff to kids. I said, let's go to a real, I'll use your word, pragmatic level. The FCC has rules in place that will not allow you to say these words on a radio station, they'll take your license. If you show these pictures, these pictorials of kids in these actions, they'll take you off the television waves. The FCC will knock you out. You're not allowed to do it. I said, so if you're not allowed to do it on TV or the radio to protect kids, why are you allowed to do it in a classroom? Well, that's a pretty good question. And so that led to that bill getting written up. And unfortunately, by the time it went through all the rhino committees in Tennessee that it had to go through, they completely took the teeth out of it. There were no penalties left that would have mattered. And then the bill got kicked to what's called summer study, which means the bill's dead. Now, in that period of time, a guy named Jeff Landry, who was the AG of Louisiana, who is now the governor of Louisiana, he saw that speech. He saw that 5 minutes that I was given. Somebody sent it to him, and he calls me up. I didn't know him. He said, "Hey, yeah, he's got that, that Louisiana accent like this on you. With, hey, can I come up there to Tennessee? I wanna pick your brain a little bit about that. I'm the AG down here in Louisiana." I said, "Yes, sir. Come on up." So I showed him how I'd studied this and put this 5 minutes together, and how even the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals denied a man his appeal because he was saying, yes, I presented this material to kids in a classroom because it was educational. And the Seventh Circuit Court of Appeals said you cannot hide behind the guise of education when it comes to exposing children to obscene content. And they said denied. They denied his appeal. The Seventh Circuit denied it. So that was also in my speech. So I gave that to the AG. He then went in and drew up a bill on his own with a Democrat governor at the time of Louisiana. And it became law in the state of Louisiana that is a crime to put kids in an exposure situation to content that's not allowed on TV or the radio. He focused in on the FCC part. Jeez. So now it's gone to Texas, and now it's going to other states. But guess where? It's still not a law. Right here in my state of Tennessee. Still.
Lame.
So we got to fix that. But I guess my point is to just I've got a high school education. I grew up in a double-wide trailer in Amarillo, Texas. That's the extent of my pedigree. But I have a laptop, and I have a brain, and I have a spine, okay? And so do you. And so if you want to see something happen and make some change, and you go, I'm never going to be a governor, I'm never going to be a rich guy, I'm never going to whatever. It doesn't matter. You're an American, you're a parent, you've got a conscience. Why don't you put something together and take a swing at them? We all started off as nobody. Nobody knew about any of us before we went out and started swinging. So I always try to push people, hey, if you see a problem, you go out there and you do something about it, because it can actually knock a big old chunk out of the enemy's wall.
He's a very humble man, John Rich, even though he does have the biggest house in Nashville. He's a very humble man, but know this, when you're watching the tide roll back against the aggressive sexualization of children in our culture, which is an insane thing that we all went through, know that it was John Rich who started this fight. John Rich started this fight over 5 years ago, and he doesn't get the credit that he deserves for it, and there's a lot of people who bandwagoned this, and good. It's a movement of millions of fathers, mothers, Christians throughout this nation stopping this, people who want to raise their family and children without predators having access to them, whether it's Epstein, Diddy, or the school system. But this guy, like, he doesn't get the credit he deserves. He's been on our show talking about this for years. We have the tapes to prove it. So thank you, John Rich.
Hey,
you're on a victory path.
You don't do that for credit. You do that because you're a daddy, and your number one job is to protect your kids from vicious, animalistic human beings out here trying to take them down. That's your number one job as the pop. And mama's got that job too. And so if you look at the situation from the perspective of a parent, you will have no fear of any repercussions, or who might not want to come hang out with you anymore, or bad names on social media. You will care less than nothing about it. Matter of fact, for me, when I hear people push back against stuff like that I've done when I make these moves, whether it be a politician or whoever, I get even up even more. Makes, oh yeah, you didn't like that, or you're really going to hate this next one. Because I want to set an example for my two sons growing up. When they walk out in this crazy world, they need to be able to look back and go, when dad saw something bad happening to people, dad put his dukes up and he didn't know if he's going to win it or not. But man, he laid everything he had on them every single time. That's the example I want my boys to have. I believe that's how original Americans were. That was the original spirit of the American people, that they said, No, we may not win this war. You guys may roll us over like a freight train, redcoats. But guess what? We'll see you at the North Bridge. And here comes the shot heard around the world. And by the time those redcoats had made it back to Boston Harbor, there was less than 70 of them alive, and 700 showed up. They were picking them off for 45 miles with squirrel guns all the way back. And that's the beginning of the Revolutionary War. Remember whose shoulders you stand upon out here. Okay? You stand upon the shoulders of people that liberty or death was not a hashtag, bumper sticker, website, or t-shirt. Liberty or death was the attitude it took to found this country, so we even have a country to argue about at this point. And so I'm glad to see Americans starting to fire back up and stand up. Let's go.
Let's freaking
get it on.
Go. Let's freaking go.
You don't have to pick up a rifle. I ain't saying that. I'm saying use your brain, use your spine. You go and do your research. You put something together that sticks. Man, bang, put it in. Set an example for your kids. You think it's bad for us. What's it going to look like in another 20 years when they go walking out? I hope better. But probably not. It's just going to be a version with AI and everything else. God only knows what they're going to be dealing with. So I know this is your show and I'm talking a lot, but that subject in particular, when you start talking about adults hurting kids, that's number one to me.
Number one, ladies and gentlemen, John Rich, I think, is this John Rich's announcement that he's running for governor of Tennessee? That's
oh, Lord, can you imagine a more horrible, can you imagine a more horrible way to spend your life?
Such an honor, John. Thank you for doing this on the show live. Wow, that was the stump speech. All right, he's workshopping it here, live for the chat. Ladies and gentlemen, we are live here, and I want to ask you actually about Tennessee, the Tennessee Valley Authority, in just a moment.
My new friends.
Because it does seem like, John Rich, you are on the Trump trajectory. John Rich did win the Celebrity Apprentice and has the single photo of Donald Trump wearing a cowboy hat in the elevator that we took up here in this beautiful house.
He's handsome in that hat, I think.
It's the largest house in Nashville. It's a beautiful property. It's a beautiful location. We do have our documentary that we did on this property, so maybe we'll play just a few minutes of that. But before we get there, ladies and gentlemen, your house is important. It's always valuable and important to make sure that you are defending your house, your property. Make sure that you are using all of your assets and everything you can to provide the best future for your family, that you are using the assets available and God-given to you to make sure that you are securing a future. Credit card debt cripples people. I think it should be illegal to charge 30 and 40% interest rates, but that's just what happens. My friends at American Financing can help you out. They use the equity in your home in order to get you out of spiraling credit card debt. Ladies and gentlemen, they are helping regular Americans, millions of them, save on average of $800 a month by doing this. Use the equity in your home, call their experts today, and lock in and make sure that you are gaining here in the golden era and not spiraling. Credit card debt is a absolute family killer. Make sure you're out of it. Call American Financing today at 888-528-1219. That's 888-528-1219, americanfinancing.net/Benny. Okay, so let's just really quickly, since I love this house, Colton, do we have the John Rich documentary on this house? I want to give you guys we don't have to play the whole thing because I think it's like 11 minutes long. But I want to give you guys just a little taste of of where we are. And maybe we should have started with this. I'm not sure, but so that you guys have some perspective. And then we're going to move on to your future political career running the state of Tennessee. Here we go. Mount Richmore.
I want everyone to know, this is real grass.
Yeah, it's real grass.
This is real.
No, it's good and it's thick and delicious. All these liberals are going, you need a greenhouse. I'm like, well, what do you call this? Is AOC's house as green as mine? Probably not.
How dare you?
You all know John Rich. John Rich is a multi-platinum award-winning country music legend. Rich, who ironically was born dirt poor in Amarillo, Texas, rocketed to fame as a country music hit writer and performer based in Nashville. John Rich has delivered more than just platinum records to the music city. Nashville is a city that likes to party, and the writer of Save a Horse, Ride a Cowboy owns the perfect place to pony up. John Rich's Redneck Riviera bar is a cornerstone in downtown with its own barbecue sauce and American whiskey to boot. In 2011, John Rich's star power and business savvy caught the attention of a popular TV host at the time, a man named Donald Trump. Rich would go on to win Donald Trump's Celebrity Apprentice season and remain the only man on earth who successfully got Trump to wear a cowboy hat. While Trump may have his name on skyscrapers in downtown Manhattan, John Rich has conquered his own mountain just west of downtown Nashville. Built on the land where the Battle of Nashville took place sits Mount Richmore. Mount Richmore is a 19,000 square foot, 3-story, 20-room mansion with an elevator and a roof deck overlooking a custom Gibson guitar-shaped pool with a guitar headstock hot tub. John Rich personally designed every aspect of the vertical concrete and steel mansion, right down to the guitar toilet seats. The current day value of the property is between $8 to $10 million, and the moment you pull through the front gate, you can see why. Welcome to the house that music built. Today on Based Cribs.
We are here at John Rich's house in the heart of Nashville. We're going to see what this, the largest house in Nashville, is like. With the John Rich. What's going on, John? Is this like a house? Is this like a...
Yeah, it's a house.
This is
It's
like the
just
biggest...
not like any house you've been in before.
This is the
but
biggest house I've ever
It's a
seen.
fun house. Come on in. Welcome
All
to
right.
Music City, brother.
After meeting John at the front door, he welcomed us into the entryway of his massive mansion. This is the most patriotic room in America. Check this out.
From time to time, I've had people walk up holding dog tags. They go, well, this was my brother, or this was my son, or whatever. And I go, wow, I'm sorry you lost him. So they go, well, he's a big time fan of Big and Rich, or big time fan of you, and you should have him. And I go, whoa, They go, oh no. They would be so excited knowing this was in your house. I go, okay.
I mean, most people don't have a gigantic memorial to the American service members in the opening, in the foyer.
It's the first thing you see.
House, yes.
Yeah, so then you get on the elevator and you basically go through this house. It's like a
Let's do
giant
it.
honky-tonk toy box. This is just a collection of places I've been, people I've worked with. I'll give you some of them. That's Glenn Campbell, Tom Petty, Merle Haggard, Quincy Jones, Larry Gatlin. There's the President of the United States wearing a cowboy hat.
Never seen it
I
before.
think Trump looks good in a cowboy hat. What do you think?
This elevator took us up to the roof of the home where John showed us what it's like from the very top of Mount Richmore.
So right now you're about almost 90 feet up, looking right at downtown Nashville. You're up here on the roof. I call it the world's biggest deer stand because you could probably hit a whitetail in 3 different counties from up here. But what's cool about this spot is during the Civil War, the South was downtown in Nashville, and the North came down the Cumberland River and started cannonballing them and hitting them with everything they had. Ran them out of downtown. They ran right through this valley, which is now all Vanderbilt. That's all Vanderbilt. They ran right through here and right up onto this hill. When I was building this house and we were excavating, we're finding musket balls and saber handles and bridles and bits and all kinds of stuff. It's just always astonishing to me to think that was not really that long ago.
Is it hard to get grass to grow on a rooftop like this? Like, I want everyone to know, this is real grass.
Yeah, it's
I'm
real
not
grass.
wrong. This is real.
No, it's
this is
good, and
real
it's thick
beautiful.
and delicious.
You bring a mower up here?
Absolutely. Either that or we let the goats loose. But normally you don't let the goats loose that often. But sometimes we'll just turn the goats loose and let them eat it.
For real?
No.
Okay. So you've gone green, John.
See, that's what I mean. All these liberals are going, you need a greenhouse. I'm like, well, what do you call this? Is AOC's house as green as mine? Probably not.
No way.
Probably not.
We're on the 3rd floor right now?
You're on the 3rd floor right now. Yeah.
Most
And,
people don't have a concert hall in
bring
their
in a
house, but look around.
we'll bring in the soldiers sometimes when they're not working, and yeah, we'll load in the band, get a bartender, say, all right, boys, have a good time. I'm gonna play a little Merle Haggard, and we'll get up and just start ripping and hang out for 3 or 4 hours. My wife and I, a family goal every year is to go past $1 million a year that we raise for charities in this room. So Folds of Honor, St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, our local food bank, various things like that. So if you look at a wall like this, it looks like drywall, right? It looks like sheetrock. Knock your knuckles on that.
Solid concrete.
So the whole house is vertically poured concrete.
This has to have a story.
So the disco saddle was a housewarming present from a buddy of mine down in Texas, and that actually hung in the old honky-tonk in Texas called Gillies, which is a world-famous honky-tonk. Went out of business back, I think, in the late 80s, early 90s.
That's the rhinestone sound.
Yeah, so when we have your birthday party here, we hit that with the lights, and we make it turn, and we turn the room around. Because it ain't a party till you got a disco saddle. So what says welcome to Nashville, Benny, more than a guitar-shaped swimming pool? Oh!
Again, this is all a custom job. So
yeah.
you designed this.
Oh yeah,
You
know,
worked on this and designed every
We did.
square inch of this place.
we did. Yeah, me and my
Okay.
wife. It was
What
actually
kind of-
my wife's idea to have a guitar pull. You would think that would have been my idea.
This is a Gibson?
That's shaped after a Gibson Hummingbird. Yeah, it's my favorite guitar. So yeah, when the pool guy came, he goes, "What do you want it to look like?" And I reached up on the wall and I said, "I want it to look like this."
Is that a jacuzzi?
Yeah, that's the hot tub. The
the hot
headstock is the hot tub. The headstock is the hot tub. Of course it is.
That's
Come on, man.
That's it.
A lot of people have sat at this bar. I've had everybody from, you name it. I mean, you saw the pictures in the elevator. It's a lot of people that have sat right here and had a good time. Redneck Riviera whiskey, that's my brand. And I wanted to come with something that was premium, but you could afford it. Where's the American blended? And nobody had anything called that. There was no bottle that said that. So Redneck Riviera whiskey was born. It's now in over 10,000 stores throughout the U.S. Cheers. Celebrate your freedom, Benny. Celebrate your freedom.
Cheers.
After enjoying some delicious Redneck Riviera American whiskey, John took us to his VIP room. You can watch the full rest of the video, obviously up, but that's about 2 years old. We were on that floor. That's where we were broadcasting from, that floor, and we were talking about, like, man, members of Congress were just coming in and doing shots of whiskey from the bar, like, and smoke cigars in the middle of the day. In case you're wondering what your Republican Congress is doing, instead of passing President Trump's Doge cuts, that's what they're doing. Okay, so you would be the first governor of Tennessee to have your own bar and your own whiskey brand. That's kind of cool.
I've been asked to run for governor of this state a couple of times by people who would be nice to have their support. And my answer to them was, number one, the boss ain't pecked me on the shoulder to do something like that. But number two, there's no way I'm trading my son's teenage years to go hang out with a bunch of people I don't really like that much at the Tennessee State Capitol building. So no, thank you, but I appreciate it. So we'll see. I hear that Marsha Blackburn may be running for governor, possibly. That's the word around Tennessee. We'll see. I don't think we have a clear idea yet who will be our next governor, but if they're good, I'll support them.
My favorite thing Marsha ever did was hunt down Kimberly Cheadle. She was in charge of the Secret Service.
Right.
And Marsha was there like, what is wrong with you? Like, how dare you come to the RNC? Like, Trump just got shot in the head.
Right.
You know, you're sitting here like trying to like, you're going to cocktail parties. She was like hunting her down at cocktail parties. Like,
Oh,
good
Marsha,
for you, lady.
Marsha
You know,
don't
good
play.
for you. Yeah.
Marsha's the one that
She's, like,
said.
screaming at her.
Marsha's the one that said in the SCOTUS hearing, approval hearing, what is a woman?
That's right. Yeah.
Marsha's the first one that said that.
That'd be good. Be nice to kick the sanctuary city. Like, there's these libs. There's these libtards that like run the city of Nashville. Like, that's
right.
the one place that needs to be cleaned up in this.
Well, yeah, it's kind of like every other state. So
Memphis.
Chattanooga,
It's
Nashville,
Memphis too,
Knoxville,
yeah.
Memphis,
That's right.
they all have liberal mayors.
Jeez.
Pretty wild.
But the state goes 20 points to Trump, you know? So it's like,
Easily.
You know, it's not like the state would ever like swing blue, I don't think.
No,
Right? It's like
I don't think so.
Florida.
No, they just have the cities, but there's a lot of people living in the country
I
around
guess
here.
Al Gore's from here, right? That's weird.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah.
All right, so Tennessee, just like every state, they got these strange problems. Texas has these funny problems, right, where you think it's a red state, and then you realize, like, wow, geez, neocons can come back from the dead like a zombie. What's going on with the Tennessee Valley Authority? You are now in a fight to the death. Can you talk us through what's going on with that kind of dark and relatively mysterious organization?
Yeah, so when my family moved from Texas to Tennessee, we moved to a little county called Cheatham County, Cheatham. It looks like Cheatham, but Cheatham County. And that's where I finished high school. That's my dad still lives there. My brother has a farm there. My Granny Rich lived there until she passed away. So did my grandpa, Papa Rich. So that county I consider it like home county. And I was made aware of the TVA, the Tennessee Valley Authority, wanting to come in the middle of this county. I mean, this is a developing county. This borders Davidson County, which is Nashville. So you can only imagine the amount of growth that's happening. It's pretty explosive. That the TVA decided that they want to build a massive, looks like multi-hundred-acre methane plant with pipelines running out of it and transmission lines running out of it to feed the city of Nashville more electricity. Not Cheatham County, but send it to Nashville. Okay, well, I understand you got to have power. Okay, we all understand that. But when you look at where they're wanting to drop this thing, It is literally right on top of the main water supply for Aspen City and Pleasant View, which are two up and coming towns outside of Nashville, like a half hour out. It's within 5 miles of 5 different schools, all surround this giant methane plant they want to put in, and on and on and on I could go. But here's where it really got me. So they come to people's property. There was a lady that's almost 90 years old who suffers from dementia. And I'm actually going there this afternoon to go interview her caretaker about tell me the play-by-play. But as the story goes, the TVA shows up in her front yard in multiple vehicles, front, side, back, like just out of nowhere shows up. The old lady walks out like, who are all these people? And the caretakers are like, whoa, what's going on? What they were trying to do was get access to her property to do surveying and destructive testing on a farm on land that she's been on for a very, very long time. I went, that's not okay. And then I meet a couple called the Wade family, Mr. and Mrs. Wade. They're in their 70s, pushing their late 70s. They said no to the TVA as well when they showed up at their doorstep. And so the TVA decided to drag them into a courtroom and put them in court and sue them, take them on, and try to force their way onto their property. So because this man refused to allow them to trespass on his property, now you're going to go to a courtroom, you're going to fight $1 trillion entity like the TVA. So it's important to know about the Tennessee Valley Authority, what that actually is. In 1933, FDR put into motion the Tennessee Valley Authority. It is the only federally owned power company in the United States. We don't have, for instance, we don't have federally owned banks. China does. Okay? Communist countries have that. We don't have federally owned power or federally owned, things like that are infrastructure based, but we do have the TVA. So this is coming up on a 100-year-old situation, and here's the real kicker. The only person that the TVA answers to is the President of the United States. That's it. He's the only one that can hire him. He's the only one that can fire him. He's the only one that can tell him, do this, don't do that. Only President Trump right now can do that. So, listen, I don't know how this is going to go, but I know that there will be literally nothing left on the table if they eventually are able to roll the bulldozers up to these people's houses and destroy Cheatham County with this methane power plant. There will have been nothing left on the table. This is going to be an ongoing campaign that I am going to fund myself. You can find a video of me speaking with Mr. and Mrs. Wade. It's on my X account at John Rich right at the top. You can see it there. It's over 1.2 million views in about 6 days. I plan on doing a protest concert in Aspen City, Tennessee. I bet we can have 20,000 hillbillies showing up at that one. I'm going out there today to interview this caretaker and get the play-by-play, like I said. And if the TVA still has gas in the tank after all that happens from here to the end of September, if they still got gas in the tank, Benny, and they still saying no, we're still bringing the bulldozers in, then I'm going to have to call the president. And then I'm going to sit with him and the TVA, and we're going to have a debate in front of the President of the United States. And TVA is going to tell him why we should tear this land up and run these people off their farms. And I'm going to tell the president why they shouldn't. And I'm going to tell him about the people who live there. By the way, Cheatham County voted for President Trump 75%. Those are his people living in that county. And to make matters more interesting, there's a county that borders us very close by called Humphreys County. So Humphreys County has a disabled coal fire plant that was shut down by guess who? Joe Biden on his war on coal. He shut it down. It cost thousands of jobs in this rural county. And I've already heard from the state senator that represents that county, and he said, with open arms, we would invite TVA to come in and turn this plant back on, retrofit it to make methane and do what it is they need to do to get the power to Nashville. Please hire our people back. Please just turn this back on. But they're not looking at that because why? Because they want redundancy going on. You know why people want to build plants when you've already got one sitting right over here? A lot of people making lots of money. Now, I don't know who's making the money on it or how that goes, nor do I care. But I can tell you this, man, you cannot allow people to get steamrolled by a federal entity like that. You cannot allow that. You cannot allow old people to be bullied and shoved around in their own front yards in the United States of America. And then when they don't allow you to trespass, you drag them into a courtroom and drain their bank accounts and try to beat them up like that until they give up and holler uncle. So we call this a bare knuckle hillbilly fist fight. That's what's getting ready to take place. It started last week with the first video. Another video is dropping Friday, and I'm going to continue to come until they decide to go somewhere else. How's that sound? Sound like a fun summer?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
So many places to go here. All right. So Thomas Jefferson, in writing the Declaration of Independence, it was supposed to be life, liberty, and the pursuit of property. It was supposed to be life, liberty, and property instead of happiness, because their property values, their property was so violated by the crown. There was the quartering of soldiers, just the demolition of homes, the demolition of family homesteads, the taking of farms. This is something that was constantly happening in the Revolutionary days.
By the Redcoats.
That's exactly right. It's why we have a Third Amendment, actually, right now. And a Fourth Amendment, obviously. And it's why property, the guarantor of property is the reason you have in America. They couldn't get any of the colonies to work. Nobody left. It was too harsh of a living environment. Nobody would leave England, and nobody would leave Europe to go work in this horribly dangerous, diseased backwater that was called America, until they started giving people private property. That was such a unique concept. That was such a genuinely incredible gift to have property. And when they would start parceling out land, that's when you got Jamestown. That's how it's woven into the fabric of America. Having private property is, and the value and the protections that you have there. Tennessee Valley Authority. I did a little bit of research. I don't know anything about it, okay? Except for this. Man, you are like fighting the Tennessee deep state. This is crazy. Tennessee Valley Authority played a critical role in supporting the Manhattan Project during World War II. TVA produced necessary electricity for the uranium enrichment facilities in Oak Ridge, Tennessee, which were part of the Manhattan Project effort to produce the first atomic bomb. The TVA was effectively constructed in order to do government psyops and like black ops for the feds. And it still exists to this day. I did not even know that, actually. So thank you for bringing this to light.
I mean, they do a lot of things. They build dams, and they do things, right? So they have done a lot of things.
I don't pretend to be the master of it,
Right.
or like to know
No.
it, but it's like, what a
can't-
connection. Jeez.
Well, no, it's a big deal.
So it was like,
And so-
it was created as an op. So this is like created as an op,
You-
to like
you-
hide the production of uranium.
Well, you've got a federal entity that's that big and have been around for almost a century now, showing up in old ladies' front yards who's suffering from dementia unannounced, and then the other old couple dragging them into a courtroom if they don't agree to allow you to trespass on your land. And from your perspective, you go, you're trespassing on my land, get off my land. No, we're not getting off your land. We're coming in to do destructive testing on your land. Well, no, you're not. Well, if you're not going to let us on, then we'll see you in court. And then they drag them into a courtroom. And the point of that is just to tell everybody else, hey, if you take us on, we're going to wreck you because we're going to build this methane plant, right? And so I don't know that I can be effective on getting this stopped or not, but I think I can.
It's everyone's worst
And
nightmare.
whether I can or not, we're going to tell the truth about what's going on in Cheatham County, Tennessee. And I haven't called the president about this. I have not called him. He's trying to stop World War III. He's got a lot going on. He don't need to have to be worried about that. But if we get to the end of the summer, we get into the fall, and TVA is still pushing for this and still going and won't back up, then I'm going to have to go to President Trump and explain to him, since he's the boss of the TVA. If he wasn't the boss of the TVA, I would not bother with him with it ever. But he is the boss. Isn't it interesting that FDR set it up? Arguably the most socialist president in the history of America, FDR, that he set it up where they only answered to him. There's no congressional oversight. There's no any authority. The EPA can't tell the TVA what to do. The EPA can watch them and make sure they're not going so far outside the bounds, that they can't do something. But ultimately, it's the President of the United States.
Wow.
I mean, how else can you, what else can you do? I'm like, okay, TVA, you're probably worth $2 or $3 trillion. I don't even know. And all I've got's a selfie stick and an iPhone. But I am going to tell these stories. I'm going to put these Americans' faces on social media, and I'm going to let everybody see what's happening. That is not American. for you to be able to come up and drag people into court because you refuse to allow them to trespass on your land sounds like a communist tactic to me.
It's every American's worst nightmare. Is like
It's not
Granny has like a government bulldozer at her house.
That's
Like,
correct.
That's every American's worst nightmare.
Does that sound like America?
No.
Okay, so the TVA does not have to do it that way. They can go, you know what? Maybe that's a bad idea. What I'm asking TVA to do is go, hey, why don't you go look at these plants that Joe Biden shut down instead of spending all this horrific money on a brand new one? Why don't you go retrofit that one, hire a bunch of people back in that county, don't tear up these people's land? But that makes too much sense. You know what I mean? So, I mean, the governor of Tennessee can't stop him either. Governor Lee has no authority over that. He could scream and holler about it, but it still wouldn't matter. So, again, Benny, music to me now, I do it for fun. I do it when I have something I want to say, or if I want to make people feel good for 3 minutes, let's go do something. But really where I view myself today is not being a politician. I'm a regular guy who really gets upset when I see other regular people getting beat up and they can't do anything about it. You know, they pick counties like Cheatham County that's full of rural people, that's on the, you know, middle to lower income side of things that can't afford big giant attorneys. They go in there and go, what are they going to do about it? Well, they failed to realize that I'm connected to Cheatham County. My family lives in Cheatham County. This is where I spent my teenage years, okay? This is where I still go to fish and hunt. So you didn't just step on no-name country people. Hello, stepping on me too. And it just so happens that guys like you will allow me to talk about this to millions of people. So, by the way, one last thing I'll add. TVA is sending one of their guys to my house right here, just one-on-one, to have a conversation with me about all this, which I very much look forward to that. I'm hoping he's going to say, you know what, we've decided there's probably a better place to do this. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I hope he says that.
Hey, TVA, we're live streaming right now. You can just do it right now.
Come on.
In front of the chat.
Come on.
You're not just a guy, though, John. You've got an incredible brand, Redneck Riviera. I cannot encourage you enough to go to John's bar if you're in Nashville. It's amazing. How's business going? How's everything doing with Redneck Riviera?
It's a Patriot bar. So
Yeah,
Redneck
yeah.
Riviera, if you're active duty, veteran, or a first responder, it's you order one, you get another one. I've seen guys at bachelor parties at Redneck Riviera having the time of their life. And I remember one night I saw 2 Korean war vets, so old men, had the ball caps that say Korean war vet. They came walking in there, they're probably in their 80s, 90s, and these college-age guys who were just tearing up my bar got up from the bar, brought the old men over and handed them their seats, the best seats in the house at the bar, and shook their hands. That's the kind of people that hang out at Redneck Riviera. So I'm really proud of what the place stands for. The whiskey's up over 80% year over year. So thank you to all the people supporting it. We've always given money back to the Folds of Honor with every bottle that we sell. And so we've now generated $2 million since 2018 back to Folds of Honor.
Goodness gracious.
And VFW. We've now engaged them on their Return the Favor campaign for our older vets trying to reclaim their benefits. So it's really interwoven where I've kept it 100% American. My glass is made in Pennsylvania. My corks come out of Indiana. It's labeled, blended, bottled, and shipped right out of Tennessee. So we're tariff proof, you know. And I tell people it's America's answer to Crown Royal. I was always a Canadian blended whiskey guy, and I said, I'm not going to keep sending my money to the Canadians. So there's got to be an American blended whiskey. Where is it? And nobody had one called that was American blended. I said, I'm going to try to come with that. So I developed it. It's better than anything Crown Royal ever did, and people now realize that. And they love the fact that it's made in America and supports the vets. So it's just surging. It's, if I can plug it, it's redneckriviera.com/whiskey. There's a store locator where you put your zip code in and click it. We're in almost 10,000 stores right now, Benny, across the U.S.
We'll make sure that the link is in the description for the video, and we can pop it back up on the screen. One final thing I wanted to touch on, John, and as you're explaining these stories, and I do mean to compliment you here, it reminds me of Elon Musk in the sense that I don't mean to make you blush here, but you're clearly rich enough and famous enough to just like go off on a yacht somewhere. You don't have to go to these rural counties and film little grannies on their wraparound porches in their homesteads that they've had for 100 years. Mm-hmm. You don't need to do that. You don't even need to be in Nashville. You could truly be on like your own private island. And instead, you're here fighting for to keep pornography out of school libraries, fight the good fight with President Trump on a number of different issues, white pill and black pill Donald Trump on the COVID vaccine, right in front of Lindsey Graham, clock his ass, and a ton of other stuff. I mean, I've seen you do all these different like live streams here for the betterment of the country, music concerts here for veterans, and all of your brands tie into veterans and like help. You don't have to do that, but you do. So maybe you could talk through a little bit of like, since you and it seems like people say that about Elon all the time, richest guy in the world. He truly doesn't need any of the shit that he's going through right now, right? With people attacking Teslas, with these fights right now, with Republicans backstabbing him. I don't know if you followed that. That's certainly in the news today. Elon crashed out yesterday and said the spending bill is filled with pork, and I hate it. And a lot of people are like, wow, Elon gave up so much to get so little, to not get these cuts codified. And that's what everyone's talking about today. So it's a big, broad question. Talk me through the psychology of like, instead of running off to a life of luxury, I'm going to stay and fight. What is that? What is that in a man, right? When they have it, because you have it and Elon has it. Clearly, Trump has it, obviously. Trump's a perfect example of someone who probably could have, what did Sam Bankman-Fried try to pay him, like $4 billion to not run for president? That was in the trial. Sam Bankman-Fried used $4 billion to not run for president, right? And Trump said, no, I'll get shot in the head instead. That's what he chose. He chose that.
No, that's true.
An on-air execution, right? Centimeter, God's hand, and the 1 centimeter. Mm-hmm. Sorry for this long question, but it's an important one. Talk me through that psychology that you guys have, and then talk me through like what is your message to Republicans to make sure that Elon's energy isn't wasted, that the energy of men like you and Elon are not wasted?
I would start out answering this question with a question. How do you want to be remembered? You just dwell on that question for a minute. How do you want to be remembered? Do you want to just be remembered as somebody, let's say you've had success, that wrote a bunch of good songs, played a bunch of good concerts, built a nice house, supported the vets? Those are fine things to be remembered for. But is that all you're capable of? Is that it? Because those things are easy. Writing a good song for me is pretty easy. That's what I do. I write songs and I go sing them. That's fun to me. That's good time. I look at my life as a short, tiny window of time. Even if I live to be 100 years old, it just wasn't that long. And God put me here. He put my spirit down to live in this body. That's the real me, is the spirit, right? This is gonna go away. This ain't even me. This is just what I have to live in for a while. He puts that spirit down in that body, and then he puts you through tests, and he puts ideas in your head, and he opens doors if he thinks you have enough balls to run through it. I don't believe he opens doors for everybody. I think God opens doors for people that he thinks might have enough nerve to run through the door, because you don't know what's on the other side of the door. There could be a pot of gold on the other side of the door. There could be a pit of snakes on the other side of the door. There could be a landmine. You don't know what it is, but you definitely know he swung the door, so here I go. And I think if you will do what he tells you to do with your life, and you will do it as fearlessly as possible, and with every bit of energy and talent and gusto that you have, whether you win the battle or not, I think he will bless you for even taking it on. And so I can't say that's how Elon thinks or how Trump thinks. That's how I think. My goal is not to be the richest guy in the world. My goal is not to be the biggest songwriter in the world, the most famous guy in the world, or any of those things. My goal is to do what he is telling me to do, and do it with a level of execution that I'm capable of doing with the skill set he gave me. And there's a responsibility that lands on people like me when you can talk to large groups of people and you have the ear of people like the President of the United States. If you need to get his ear, there's a responsibility you have for people who are being abused, kicked around, mistreated in this country, in my country, in America, that when you see that going down and you know what, I could spend 2 hours this afternoon getting to know those people and take my iPhone and a selfie stick and go get their story and post it online and tag the TVA so they understand that, hey, there's another guy over here. Me, by the way. I love this county too, by the way. You're not just stepping on people nobody's ever heard of. There's a responsibility for me to go do that, Benny. It's kind of like in school when you were in high school. If you saw the big kid picking on the little kid in the hallway and you're big enough yourself, are you just going to let that continue on day after day after day? Or at some point, are you going to walk over and go, hey, and you step in the middle and go, stop picking on this kid. You want to pick on somebody, pick on me one time, right? That's what a guy with integrity would do. Stand in between them, because it's not a fair fight. And I'm not saying it's a fair fight with me and the TVA. Obviously not. I mean, multi-trillion-dollar company that only answers to the president. But I will say, we the people do have an incredible amount of power. Incredible. Like the most power. The most. We have more power than the federal government, more power than the richest people, more power than the TVA, more power than all of them. We the people have the power. So when we the people decide, and you really mean it, you're not doing it for clicks, you're not doing it to try to look cool, you know you're going to take incoming from this, you know they're going to bust you in the mouth, you know people are going to get upset, and you do it anyway, that counts, that sticks. That to me is what I am all about. I don't want to have to go out here and get in a fist fight every other day with something going on. It just so happens there's a lot of nonsense going on in our country that is only going to be solved through either a fist fight or the threat of a fist fight out in the wide open, right? And so somebody has to be willing to step up and do that. You do it all the time on your show. I don't have a show. I'm not a podcast or any of those things. But I am an American. And I do know what's right, and I do know what's wrong, and I know my time is limited on this earth, and I'm proud to be an American. And so, yeah, my fists are up. Let's go.
I can't think of a better answer than that. Ladies and gentlemen, in John Rich's house, in John Rich's studio. That's the American fighting man. That's the spirit that built this country, and damn it, it's still alive. Isn't that encouraging? That that's still there? Whether you didn't want to speak for Trump and Elon, but you got you birds of the same feather, man, cut out of the same cloth. You, Trump, Elon, Johnny Cash, it's like the same thing. It is like these guys who could have cashed it all in, and instead Johnny Cash was writing hymns for the till the end, to the last days of his life, like the very last days of his life.
Last
Johnny
minute.
Cash was writing hymns.
Very last minute.
Got Johnny Cash
Yeah,
right there.
that's
right?
Johnny Cash right over there. Yeah, yeah. My first son's name is Cash. I consider him to be the greatest singer-songwriter that ever lived, other than maybe King David, who wrote Psalms. He was pretty good too.
I did hear John was on the phone, and he picks it up, and he was just talking with his son, and he picks it up, and he's like, "Hey, Cash, this and that, this and that." And I was like, "Oh no, man, he's calling the FBI on me. He's got me."
No, this is Cash
got
with a
me.
C.
Oh,
I was
no.
talking to Cash
Oh,
with a C, not
shoot.
Cash with a K.
Okay, all right. You know
But you
what?
watch your P's and Q's, because I will call Cash Patel, and he'll come get you just as soon as he's got time.
I'm like, oh shoot, they got me. I'm in this locked cement. You got cement walls here. There's no getting out. We're 4 stories up. I can't jump.
End the
They got me.
broadcast. Boom. Oh, what happened to the live stream?
Oh man, yeah, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. These live streams are so much fun. We've been telling you we're gonna be doing a lot more of them. We're gonna be doing a lot of this. There's gonna be a lot of back and forth, a lot of like asking the chat, the comments. It's gonna be great. We're gonna be doing this with members of the administration. We want to bring this energy, you, along with us, to everywhere that we are going. And we just want to say thank you. Patriot Mobile is the company that keeps us rocking in the streets, ladies and gentlemen, as we are out and going. Patriot Mobile is our cell phone company of choice at The Benny Show. The reason why is that for years, and in fact, it was years ago that I came to your first party. It was like a Rumble party, right? It was
Truth and Rumble, yeah.
Yeah, you were like doing an album release here. Man, it's like if we've been posting content. You go out and you want to make sure that, one, you are not supporting companies that hate you and hate your values, especially when it comes to free speech, obviously, if you're using a cell phone company. But then, two, you're using something that's solid that you can like upload. And Colton and I were at the bar opening last night. It was crowded, it was rowdy, but we were able to like get content up, get posting, take you with us. Patriot Mobile gives us that ability. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a Christian conservative wireless provider. You've heard me talk a lot about it. PatriotMobile.com/Benny. Call 972 Patriot right now. Use the promo code Benny to get a free month of service when you sign up. PatriotMobile.com/Benny helps us bring you the Patriots live.
That's it, man.
That's right. Not the football team. Okay, not the football team. I'm sure we got a Titans fan here. I don't know. I don't know.
Dallas Cowboys.
Dallas Cowboys.
Oh, I just
okay.
made a lot of people mad.
Whoa! Actually,
Hey.
Roger Staubach.
Yeah, I got
jersey is
Staubach on the
there
wall.
you go. Okay, all
I
right.
root for the Titans too, though. I do root for them.
I mean, it's not a secret that you're a Texan, that you were born in Texas. That's not a secret.
I was born in Tennessee till I was 3 years old.
Oh, is that so?
Moved to Texas.
Ah.
Grew up in Texas. Came back to Tennessee and finished high school in Tennessee. So I'm
born in
kind of
Amarillo. I thought you were born there. Okay.
I'm like a physical version of the Alamo. You know what I mean?
That's right.
The
Davy
volunteers,
Crockett.
they all
That's
came
right.
in, and Sam Houston. So I'm like, okay, if the Alamo was a person,
And you're kicking out the illegal aliens, right? Because that was technically Santa Anna's army. That was like the first open border,
yeah, Santa
right?
Ana.
That was the
yeah.
open border. All
Yeah.
right? They came with guns. They weren't sending their best. Okay, they were sending rapists and murderers. The year was 1842, and the Mexicans, they were sending rapists and murderers to the Alamo. Okay, the first open border. Joe Biden was a teenager, and he was still, but he
He was in his first term in
Joe
Senate.
Biden was his first term in the Senate. Yep, that was Joe Biden's open border. We knew it. That's what we call it. Remember the Alamo. That's why we call him Alamo John.
Alamo John.
That's right. That's right.
I'll take that. I don't mind Alamo John.
Before we wrap here, anything that you can tease out? Any special projects? Can you fill the? Can you tell the audience about anything exciting coming up?
I know what you're talking about.
I don't know.
So, yeah, and you know about this. Very few people know about this. I've got a song I wrote a few months ago called The Righteous Hunter. The Righteous Hunter. And it's about a parent's attitude towards child predators. So it is a, I would say, the most intense lyric I've ever written. You've heard the stuff I've written. Would you probably agree with that? Most intense lyric I've ever written.
It's
one of the most
it's a banger.
intense songs I've ever heard.
It's a banger.
The only thing I haven't done yet is shoot the video to this thing because I am just thinking on it, and kind of the way I do things is when the no-brainer idea hits me, which comes from the boss, that's when I move. And it has not hit me yet, but the second it does, I wondered, you might be the perfect guy to play the dad in the video, Benny. I don't know if you would consider doing that.
Well,
But
I got
if
dad
you
bod,
were,
so
well,
I
you
got
got
dad
four
bod now.
kids. You got 4 kids.
Mm-hmm.
You're a dad. Is there anything Benny Johnson wouldn't do to keep a child predator from getting their hands on one of your kids?
So I say this a lot. You know, I'm not a violent person by nature. I don't like hurting animals or anything like that. You won't find me like out. You know, that's just not my thing. You'll find me streaming, right? But like I'm not into. You know, I'm not into that. I have guns. I moved to a state. We looked at states where child predation is met by execution. That was the first list of states when we were leaving DC. And then I looked at the states that allowed me actually moved to a county where the sheriff's name's Grady Judd, who's famous for saying, "Save us the bullets. Kill them yourself. Save the cops the bullets. Somebody comes into your property, that's your property. And you have actually an obligation in the state of Florida to defend it."
Castle law.
Yeah. And so I moved to a place like that. So what I'm saying is that you've already signed your death warrant when you break into my house.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, every father knows this. And so like every father has that same instinct. Every good father has that exact same instinct that you've already said, I don't want to live anymore. When you come to the, you know, when you enter my home without being
Right.
invited, that's it. You know, that's it. You're cooked. And I got my own. Every man has their own plan, right?
Yeah.
And knows how to do it, and knows what happens when that day comes. And I'll send you straight to Jesus, right, to judge you. Like I will, because the worst thing that you could possibly live with was something bad happened to my kids, and I did nothing to prevent it.
Correct.
To maybe wrap up this whole conversation we've had, because we've touched
Yep.
on this from many different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Everything from the TVA to the school system to Epstein and Diddy. We've talked about all of it over the last 90 minutes. Like, if you could prevent something bad from happening to your child and you didn't, that's worse than that. That's the greatest hell that you could ever live with. And
Correct.
so I'm not going to
Yeah.
live like that. Yeah.
No, the song was inspired by something Sean Combs said.
No way.
Yeah. So there's a video that I saw of Sean Combs at an award show, and the bright lights, television cameras, the whole thing. And he's standing out there receiving an award for something. And he looks dead into the camera and he says, "Just so you know, I own your kids. I determine what they wear, what they listen to. I own them. I own their souls. And he's got this demonic look on his face. And he's saying this into the camera. And I thought to myself, who's going to rebut this guy? Like, is somebody going to come on and show the other side? Oh, what's the response to that, Sean Combs? And I couldn't find anybody that had even mentioned it, that he had said that. And it hit me so viscerally to hear him say that I own their souls. I said, you know what? I'm going to have to say something about that. And maybe somebody will hear it, maybe they won't, but I cannot deal with this. And so I wrote The Righteous Hunter. And it will be coming out. I promise you it's coming. It's just such an important, powerful, very intense song that it has to be done exactly the right way. And there does has to be a dad in the video. So whether it's you, it could be somebody else, but you would be a great one in that video if that's something you'd want to take. You ever starred in a music video before?
Strong fathers make strong nations, man.
Right.
The child predators, they always look for girls that don't have dads or have weak fathers or have broken families. Same thing Epstein did. So be a strong father, you save the country.
We can end with a little scriptural principle about that, about what that song is, back to Sean Combs. In the Bible it says, resist the devil and he will flee from you. Well, another way you can read that is rebuke the devil and he will flee from you. Now, you can't rebuke him on your own. You got to claim God's power and say, the Lord rebuke you, which is how Jesus said it. The Lord rebuke you, Lucifer. And then he runs because the last thing he wants to see is Jesus Christ standing in front of him, because he can erase him with a snap of the fingers. So this song, when it comes, will be, that is me resisting what Sean Combs stands for. That is me with the power of God rebuking Sean Combs and his boss, his daddy. You know, my daddy can whoop your daddy's ass without even thinking about it. Okay? My daddy created your daddy, and he's eventually going to chain your daddy up and lock him in hell for the rest of eternity is what's going to happen to your daddy. So I don't hear preachers talking like that. I just don't hear it. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a politician. I'm not any of these things, Benny, but I will tell you, somebody's got to say it at some point. If that's what my little old job is here running around, fine. Have guitar, will travel. Okay? Go out here and make a mark, and never let them talk to you like that. You never let a bunch of demoniac crazies like Sean Combs look into the camera and tell all the parents of America that he owns the souls of your kids. You do not allow him to say that without something coming back 10 times stronger. And that's what the song is going to be about.
Boom. It's going to rock the internet. It's going to rock it, ladies and gentlemen. And we'll come right back. We'll come back here. We'll do a live stream. And John will pick up that guitar right there. Pick up that rhinestone guitar right there, and he'll sing it for us. And we'll do it on the stream when that sucker's out. Yeah,
sounds good.
We'll do a banger. We'll do an album release party. How about that?
Let's do
stream
it.
That. Okay.
Yeah, man.
Rock and roll.
Be great.
Our verse of the day. That was a great verse of the day. Our verse of the day from Psalms. It's a good one today. God is our refuge and our strength, a very present help in trouble. Ladies and gentlemen, the nation was in trouble, and millions of Christians and believers prayed and united together, good men and women, honorable men and women, mothers and fathers, and we saved this place with the strength of our Lord and Savior. So remember that God will be your refuge. The boat, it's going to rock, and we're going to just make sure that we keep our eyes set right on the Lord. Okay. Well, that's been one hell of a show. I do have a special announcement for you, John. Our meme team made a song for you.
Oh.
Our memer's name's Jerry. Also, Jamie, we were talking about Gays Against Groomers. So, Jamie, shout out to Jamie Mitchell. All right, everybody follow her. Shout out to Colden, who's a straight up Special Forces G, who get the whole stream set up in an hour or less. Look freaking great. And then Jerry is our full-time meme maker at the show.
Okay.
And he has a meme for you, and we're gonna play it it's a song, and we're gonna play our song for you next time. You'll play your song for us.
Awesome.
Okay. All right. So here we go. We're gonna crank the music here, Colden, and we'll all listen to it together. John Rich, here's your own special song from the Benny Show. Let's freaking go. See you.
Just on my birthday on a whiskey haze, living through nights and forgetting my days. cards are marked, the dice don't play fair. Oh Lord, my soul's caught in a snare. Oh Lord, beat the devil out of me. Set me free from the man I used to be. These chains are heavy and I can't break free. Oh Lord, beat the devil out of me. The road's been long and the miles don't fade. Temptation's grip is a debt I paid. A broken compass spinning wild in my hand. Oh Lord, I'm a stranger in this land. Oh Lord, beat the devil out of me. Set me free from the man I used to be. These chains are heavy and I can't break free. Oh Lord, beat the devil out of me.
The biggest ships in the sea, all owned by the oldest kings, and their dying legacy, media deal reads. Soon will the penny show come to mind. The salt from lives for fun. Leave the gold and bring the gun. We sail for number one. Soon will the penny show come to mind. The salt from lives for fun. Leave the gold and bring the gun. We sail for number one. The biggest ships in the sea, all owned by the oldest king.